We feel it's really very important to have local staff, to have a very clear agenda shared with the local host partner, to make sure that we're sharing their vision, that you work under their direction, and that the work projects are thoughtful and not beyond the capacity of the standard volunteer.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF, a local nonprofit providing older adults in the Northeast neighborhood of San Francisco with support to help age in place. I'm Lynn Winter-Gross.
Many of us have decided that we're ready to travel again, and judging by the crowds at airports around the world is on the move. There are so many travel options to consider: cruises, adventure trips, small or large group tours, solo travel, family trips, and more. If you're old enough to remember the birth of the Peace Corps, you may be interested in knowing that today many people have found a new and very enriching way to travel while doing good at the same time: volunteering in a foreign country. While many of our listeners already volunteer in their local communities, the idea of visiting and working in a different part of the world may be a new and unique option, something you didn't even know was possible.
Experts report that people who work to improve the world or help others maintain a sense of vitality, no matter what their age. They gain the satisfaction that comes with doing something they believe in and knowing they are helping to improve the lives of others. Our guest today is Michelle Gran, Senior Vice President of Global Volunteers. Michelle has led over 60 volunteer teams on service programs around the world. Global Volunteers is a private, nonprofit organization that delivers services to partner communities worldwide. This is not the original Peace Corps experience with a commitment of 2 years or more, but instead, Global Volunteers encourages and enables volunteers to spend short periods of time working with and learning from local people in the communities. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
Michelle, can you tell us about some of the opportunities for older adults who may want to volunteer abroad? It seems like most of your organization's projects are involved with children and families. Is that right?
It is. And honestly, Miriam, I can't think of one of our service programs that aren't appropriate for people who are 50 and older. We currently are working in 14 countries right now, and including the U.S. And in any of those cases, we only have a couple of requirements. One is that you need to be a native English speaker if you are teaching conversational English. And other than that, it's just mobility limitations, which can, as you know, occur at all ages.
What kind of mobility problems are you looking at?
Okay. Well, we have kind of a scale, depending upon where our volunteers are serving. You know, in some of our developing communities, there might be uneven pavement. You might be walking on trails in the rainforest or whatever. And so some people are limited because of just mobility concerns, or weight sometimes is a concern. So we don't in any way screen people in or out because of age. It's all a matter of their own self-assessment of their ability, their mobility capabilities. And so then we have kind of a guide, able to walk up a flight of stairs, able to walk 2 miles, able to walk more than 2 miles, able to walk up 5 flights of stairs. It's all a self-assessment.
So tell us about what kind of skills a senior volunteer would need. Are you looking for doctors or teachers, or what kind of skills do people have to have, and what kind of experience?
Sure, we're looking for doctors and teachers and everyone. Actually, the same skills that we ask of all of our volunteers, and that is, first of all, an open mind and an ability to put yourself at service with the local people. But beyond that, there are some programs where we do recruit professionals with specific expertise. For instance, in Tanzania, we have a program called Reaching Children's Potential, where we actively recruit individuals with healthcare backgrounds, with social work backgrounds, teachers, certainly. And then there's other service programs where all you really need to do is to have a willingness to work with children, work on childcare. Grandmas are particularly useful, and but grandpas as well. Anybody who enjoys working with children and their ability to just work in a childcare setting, whether that be a small preschool or just one-on-one with kids.
So you've been 60 trips. Where are most of these projects located?
All over the world. We have worked on all six of the 7 continents. Right now, we are on 5 continents. They're pretty centrally located around the world. We work in Africa, Europe, Eastern Europe, and Southern Europe, in Latin America, South Pacific, and Asia. So it's pretty evenly dispersed around the globe.
So if the program is for 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, can one really make a difference in such a short period of time?
Excellent question, one that I'm asked often. And in fact, yes, because the key to Global Volunteer success is the continuity from team to team, week to week, year to year. So everyone, we like to talk about the fact that everyone is a link in the chain. They contribute their skills for 1 to 3 weeks. And the real challenge here is that any organization that is facilitating volunteer service programs really has to have their eye on the long game. They have to really be willing to cultivate that long-term partnership so that when you bring people in for short periods of time, you're in the middle of a stream of a development effort. And that's why we are able to use people who are just generalists, because almost in every service program, there's going to be some type of an English teaching component. There will be usually a labor component. And so the key is really kind of a breadth of work projects, so that average individuals who only have 1 or 2 weeks out of their work schedule or out of their busy family schedule can join this stream of activities. And the reason that works also is because we're only working under the direction and at the invitation of community leaders. And so they are in charge of the work. That work goes on whether or not Global Volunteers is there. So we actually are just helping hands, whether you are a doctor working then at a clinic, or if you are a grandma, grandpa coming in to hold kids for a week.
I want to ask you, though, do the volunteers pay for their own transportation and housing, and are these costs tax deductible?
Well, the volunteer or programs that we offer are a unique American invention in that volunteers get to pay to volunteer. And I will tell you that there are some places where we serve where that's a real curiosity, because they wonder, why are these Americans paying to come here and work with us and do the kind of work that, you know, we're accustomed to doing every day? So yes, the answer is yes, they pay a tax deductible service program contribution, which reflects the costs of their participation: food, lodging, ground transportation, the team leader, project materials. And then on top of that, if there are any visa fees, of course, you have to have a passport, and transportation costs. And as I said, yes, it's all tax deductible because we are a 501c3 tax exempt organization. And our volunteers, when they're serving with us, are serving as an extension of Global Volunteers. And as a charitable organization, it's a charitable deduction.
So what would an average cost be for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, and what kind of housing is there?
Well, average is probably around $1,700 to $1,800. Some are more, some are less. For instance, in the USA, it's less than that if you stay for a week or if you stay for 2 weeks. You know, it's really kind of across the board, but on average, $1,000 to $3,000. And the housing, we're really proud of the fact that we work very hard to provide comfortable, very safe housing. Sometimes it's communal. So for instance, it may be in a guest house with multiple bedrooms. And sometimes it's for instance, like in Texas, we work in along the border of Mexico and Texas, and also in New Mexico. And there we stay in little motels. So it's always focused on security, and comfort to begin with, not because we're trying to coddle our volunteers, but because we want to get the most out of them, and we want to make sure they're well rested and they're well fed and they feel secure and they're ready to go in the morning, so that we can help them make the greatest contribution to the community, because in fact, that is what they're there for. Yes, it is an interesting alternative vacation, but our goal is to really maximize their contribution in whatever way they can do that.
What kind of training do you provide?
Well, I wouldn't say it's training per se. We do orientation by way of, now these days with technology such as it is, it's videos that people can watch. We send out a volunteer manual, very complete English teaching guide, if that is something that you're going to be doing on site. And then we do team building and acclimation and orientation to the host community on site. So you will spend about 3/4 of a day. Most of our volunteers arrive on the weekend, where our service programs typically start on a Saturday. And so they arrive and they get rested and they get kind of settled in. And then Sunday is considered a day of orientation.
Are there any health risks involved with any of these places, or altitude, anything like that people need to know about?
Sure, because these are world travel opportunities. And so there's always going to be risks. There's always risks with international travel or even domestic travel. That's something that is we advise people on in the volunteer manual that they receive. And of course, our website is very explicit about that. So yeah, if you have had any kinds of prior experiences with altitude, and you share that with us, we will advise you that for instance, maybe Ecuador would not be the right place for you to serve. And if you are sensitive, for instance, to dust, excessively sensitive to dust, we may say Kathmandu, Nepal might not be a place that you want to serve, because we are intimately aware, of course, of all the conditions where we work. So we're going to work with you on that to try to figure out what is the best fit for not only your volunteering desire, but also your physical capability.
Could you describe a typical day for a volunteer?
Well, I don't know that it's real typical. We like to change it up a lot, and every program is very, very different. But there are some commonalities in that we always try to work a full 8-hour day, at least 6 to 8 hours at the work site. And that's required also by the IRS. So we abide by that very strictly. But for instance, you'll wake up, you will have breakfast, either at usually at the hotel where we stay. And then we will have a team meeting very briefly it's kind of, again, we'll make certain that everybody knows what their assignments are for the day. We will have a reading of the team journal. We will have somebody offer a thought or a message of the day. And then people disperse to their work sites. And that's usually 2.5 to 3 hours. They'll break for lunch, which is usually about an hour. They will resume their work. They'll be picked up and come back typically. And now don't hold me to this because it changes from place to place, but typically they will come back and have maybe a half hour to an hour of rest. They will meet for dinner, have an evening meeting, and then any activities that are scheduled for afterwards, whether it's individual or if they're cultural presentations or whatever, then that usually will go on until 7:30, 8 o'clock. I will tell you though, in Greece, that's a very different place. And the Greeks are known, we work in Crete, and the Greeks are known to stay up until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And the dinner may be like at 8 o'clock, but then you might not start work until 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning. So that's what I mean by it's not always very typical.
Michelle, there are a number of international volunteer programs like Global Volunteers. How should one choose which program to go on?
First of all, we think that we're the best. And that's because we've been around for going on 40 years now. But for those who are looking for an opportunity to really make a difference, first of all, you've really got to look closely if the programs are rooted in development, because what we're trying to avoid with all international service programs is what I like to call hit and run volunteerism. And that is that there is no intention to stay in the community, to really add value to that community. And sometimes American zeal, we're very, very generous people. And sometimes in our zeal to make a difference, we put our agenda ahead of others. And we end up actually exploiting the community that we're trying to serve. So we feel it's really very important to have local staff, to have a very clear agenda shared with the local host partner, to make sure that we're sharing their vision, that you work under their direction, and that the work projects are thoughtful and not beyond the capacity of the standard volunteer. For instance, sometimes when there are emergencies that happen around the world, and again, Americans are generous people, and they want to try to do something, and they might rush into circumstances where, in a relief situation, they're actually a hindrance to that effort, as opposed to actually adding value. So always check out the nonprofit that you're going to be volunteering with and make certain that they have a good experience in this area.
Wow, that's all great information. And I hope there are a lot of people out there packing their bags right now and getting ready
I hope so.
join. Yeah, so thank you so much, Michelle. That was Michelle Gran of Global Volunteers. Today on News You Can Use, we want to talk about retirement. Whether you're already retired, looking forward to the day you'll retire, or anxious about what you will do with your new free time, there will be something here for you. Whenever we talk to people who are either just retired or about to retire, they tell us that it's not an easy transition. Some report feeling guilty about not being at work during the day, or embarrassed to be seen at lunch with a friend or at the gym in the middle of the day. Others say they're sure they'll be fine once they get used to all that free time.
First, the bad news. A recent report from the Institute of Economic Affairs claims that there's a 40% risk of clinical depression after retirement. But the good news is that you can avoid or greatly resist these statistics if you plan ahead. Retirement requires a plan, just like every other stage of life. You can't go from working on Friday and being retired on Monday and think everything's going to just fall into place beautifully unless you've made a plan. It isn't necessary to have your entire year or even month all planned out, but it is important to have some firm appointments or events to attend to in those first few weeks.
Think about your free time. Is it a gift or a burden? All that new free time can mean different things to different folks. Unstructured time can mean hours in the garden or reading or playing with the grandchildren. It can also mean boredom, monotony, and depression. And don't think a magical solution will suddenly appear, bringing you back that sense of status, purpose, or structure that you miss. One recent retiree told us he was sitting in a restaurant overhearing an important business deal being discussed at the next table. All he could think of was, wow, I used to do that. Days later, he signed up for a place on his retirement community's board, and not long afterward, he became president. His sense of purpose and social interaction was restored. Consider how much time you want to devote to different aspects of your life. Do you want to be an on-call grandparent or caregiver to a sick or disabled family member? Do you want to learn a new skill or share some of the knowledge with others who can use it? If most of your friendships were with people at work, are you doing anything about replacing that social circle with new people?
Do you have a bucket list, places you want to visit? Make a list and pick something out that you can begin to make a reality. Perhaps there's a golf course where you always wanted to play, or a special festival like Mardi Gras that you always wanted to see. Start making plans, contact a travel agent, or ask friends who've been to places you want to see. Ask for help. That's a good way to begin. If you haven't retired yet, see if you can ease into it by working fewer days or fewer hours to start. Use the new free time to check out hobbies or volunteer work you've always been interested in but were too busy to try. Perhaps you've always dreamed of playing a harp, but find your fingers aren't as limber as they used to be. Best to know that before you invest in this expensive instrument. Dream of sailing in a retirement? Have you checked out whether you can still put the boat in and out of the water without help? You can still sail or play an instrument, but you may have to modify those dreams a bit.
And stay healthy. It sounds easy, but all those plans to join a gym or lose 20 pounds or eat a more healthy diet require adjustments as well. By all means, increase your exercise time, but don't overdo it or try to do everything at once. In health, as in all things in life, incremental change can give you results too.
And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks to Michelle Gran of Global Volunteers. You can learn more about Next Village SF at their website, nextvillagesf.org. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Jason Dahlstedt is our engineer. And thanks for listening. We would love to hear what you would like us to talk about, to discuss, and discover. Please contact us at nbypodcast@nextvillagesf.org. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.